The wrong table. The rain on Vesper Station fell like cold metal dust, tapping on the roofs of the lower district. People said the storm never reached the rich levels above. Only the workers, the laborers, and forgotten felt its chill. Among them walked Jero Hale, a young, thin mechanic with oil still on his hands and a tired look in his eyes. He had just finished repairing a cargo lifter for a merchant who paid him half the agreed price. Jero did not argue. He was too exhausted, too hungry, and used to being ignored. On Vesper Station, mechanics like him were invisible. Tonight, he wanted only one thing, a warm meal. Jero stepped into a busy station diner, shaking the water from his jacket. The place was loud and full. Every table was packed with travelers, traders, and soldiers. He looked left and right, searching for even a small seat. He found one, a table near the back, strangely empty, with only a single woman sitting there. She sat very still, her back straight, her eyes fixed on the hollow screen on the wall. A pair of tall guards stood nearby, but Jero did not notice them at first. He only saw the empty chair. He whispered to himself, "Just 5 minutes. Just food. Nothing else." Jero walked over and sat down. The moment he touched the seat, one of the guards stepped forward. "Citizen," the guard said coldly, "you cannot sit here." Jero looked up, surprised. Sorry, I didn't know the table was taken." The woman turned her head slightly. Her eyes were soft and calm, yet held a weight Jero could not understand. She was beautiful in a quiet, gentle way, with long dark hair tied neatly behind her. She sat in a floating mobility chair, its frame glowing faint blue. The lower half of her body did not move at all. "It's all right," she said in a clear but soft voice. "Let him stay." The guards hesitated, then stepped back. Jero felt embarrassed. He stood halfway from his seat. "I didn't mean to disturb." "Please sit," she said. "You look tired." Jero slowly sat again, unsure and confused. The woman studied his face for a few seconds. Jero felt like she was reading him, seeing more than he wanted anyone to see. Finally he asked, "Why is this table empty?" "Everyone else is fighting for seats." One of the guards answered before the woman could speak. "Because this is the table of Princess Lysara, daughter of Emperor Kael'Taran of the Zenith Empire." Jero froze. His throat went dry. He had just sat at the table of the Emperor's daughter, the one rumored to be paralyzed since the accident on the luminous bridge. People said the Emperor kept her hidden from the worlds, guarded by elite soldiers. And he had sat down like a fool. Jero's hand shook. I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Princess Lysara smiled slightly. "Do not worry. I chose to come here. I want to see the station, see real people living real lives." Jero lowered his eyes, unsure how to respond. He had never spoken to royalty before. He had never even seen anyone from the upper levels. After a few quiet moments, Lysara asked, "What is your name?" "Jero Hale. Just a mechanic." "There is no just in earning an honest life," she said gently. Jero felt a strange warmth in her words, something he had not felt in a long time. Respect. But before he could speak again, loud footsteps echoed through the diner. Jero and the guards turned at the same moment. A group of armed mercenaries pushed through the entrance, their armor marked with red symbols. People looked away. Everyone knew those marks. They belonged to a dangerous group that worked outside the law, often hired by rich enemies for dirty work. The leader, a tall man with a scar down his face, scanned the room. His eyes locked onto the princess's guards. Jero felt his stomach twist. The scarred man smirked. Well, what do we have here? Looks like the Emperor's girl is taking a public tour." Princess Lysara's guards stepped close around her. One of them whispered urgently, "We need to leave. Now." But the mercenaries had already blocked every exit. The scarred man's eyes landed on Jero next. "And who's this?" "A friend of the princess." Jero swallowed hard. "I'm nobody. I just sat at the wrong table." The mercenary grinned. "That makes you unlucky." Tension filled the diner like a heavy storm. People ducked behind counters. Someone turned off the music. The air felt thick and ready to explode. Princess Lysara looked at Jero, her voice calm even in danger. "Jero, stay close." Why me? He whispered. Because you did not look at me with fear, she said. And I think fate has chosen you for something. Jero had no idea what she meant, but he was about to find out, very soon, because the scarred mercenary lifted his weapon, and the first shot of danger echoed across the diner. The sound of the blast shook the diner. Metal trays fell. Lights flickered. People screamed and dropped to the floor. Jero froze for a heartbeat, the sharp smell of burned air filling his lungs. He had never been this close to real danger before. He had seen fights, yes, street brawls, worker disputes, station patrol arrests, but this was different. This was weapons, soldiers, and death aimed in his direction. The princess's guards reacted instantly. One guard pulled a shield emitter from his belt, creating a thin blue barrier in front of Lasara. The other fired back at the mercenaries, forcing them behind the pillars. Jero ducked as another shot hit the wall behind him, burning a hole through the metal. He crawled under the table, his heart thundering. The princess didn't move from her mobility chair, though her eyes were sharp, focused. "Jero," she called, "are you hurt?" "No," he shouted back, even though his hands were shaking so badly he could hardly keep himself steady. The scarred mercenary laughed from behind his cover. "This is perfect. The Emperor will pay a fortune when he learns we have his precious daughter." The guard closest to Jero growled, "Over my dead body." "That can be arranged," the mercenary replied. The firefight intensified. Red lasers crossed the room. The shield around the princess sparked loudly as shots struck it again and again. It was holding, for now, but Jero could see cracks forming in the energy field. He had to do something. But what? He was a mechanic, not a soldier. His entire life had been fixing engines, repairing tools, and patching broken machines. He didn't know how to fight an army of trained killers, but he did know machines. His eyes darted around the diner and landed on the kitchen. Steam pipes, pressure regulators, old power coils, a half-broken cleaning bot. Jero made a quick decision. He crawled toward the side counter and whispered, "Princess Lasara, stay low." "I cannot," she answered calmly, tapping the side of her immobilized legs. "But go. I trust you." Trust. The word hit him stronger than the gunfire. Jero sprinted into the kitchen just as a shot grazed past his shoulder. He stumbled, crashed into a stack of metal trays, and fell. The noise alerted the mercenaries. "He's running," one shouted. "Get him." Jero pushed himself up, teeth clenched. He grabbed the nearest tool, a kitchen pipe wrench. Not ideal, but better than nothing. He rushed to the steam system against the wall and started turning valves. Steam hissed out, filling part of the diner with a thick white cloud. The mercenaries coughed and cursed. "What the? I can't see." The princess's guards used the cover to pull her behind a pillar. It gave them a few precious seconds. But the scarred leader wasn't done. He waved his hand, and two mercenaries with helmets stepped forward through the steam. Their visors glowed red, thermal vision. Jero's eyes widened. "Oh, no, no, no." He darted to the cleaning bot lying on the floor. It was old, dented, and slow. But the battery inside, it was an overcharged type, illegal on most stations, but cheap and popular among poor shop owners. He ripped open the panel. Sparks flew. Electricity bit his fingers. He winced but kept working quickly, twisting wires with speed he didn't know he had. He shoved the bot toward the mercenaries. The bot rolled forward, sputtering. One mercenary stepped on it. A loud pop erupted as the battery overloaded, flashing bright blue light. The mercenary staggered, visor flickering, blinded for several seconds. The other stumbled backward, disoriented. The princess's guard seized a moment and fired, knocking the second mercenary to the ground. "Good work, mechanic," the guard shouted. Jero barely heard him. He was breathing heavily, shaking from adrenaline. His plan wasn't finished yet. The scarred leader emerged from the steam, his visor glowing fiercely. His voice was low and dangerous. "You're smarter than you look, boy, but I only need one shot." Princess Lasara raised her voice, calm but firm. "You won't shoot him." "Oh, why not?" "Because I am the one you want, not him." The mercenary smiled. True. He aimed at her. Jero didn't think. He lunged forward. He tackled the princess's mobility chair, pushing it sideways with all his strength. The blast fired, not at Lysara, but at one of the support beams above. A terrifying crack split through the diner. One of the ceiling plates broke loose. A giant metal slab fell, right toward them. Jero dove, grabbing the princess's shoulders, pulling her close as the metal plate slammed down behind them, blocking the mercenaries' line of sight. Dust exploded everywhere. The guards rushed to their side. Princess. Mechanic. Are you all right? Lysara coughed softly. We are fine. Jero lay beside her, chest burning, arms shaking. I didn't mean to push you so hard. You saved me, she said quietly. But they weren't safe yet. The mercenaries were regrouping beyond the fallen ceiling plate. Their footsteps echoed. Princess Lysara turned to her guards. We need to move, and Jero comes with us. Princess, he's just a mechanic. He saved my life, she said firmly. He stays. Jero blinked in shock. Why me? He asked again. Princess Lysara looked at him with calm, steady eyes. Because fate rarely chooses the strong, she said. It chooses the ones who never expect to be chosen. The footsteps of the mercenaries grew louder. The guards prepared their weapons. Princess Lysara placed her hand on Jero's arm. Jero, run with us. He nodded. His life had changed the moment he sat at the wrong table. And now, he was running with the Emperor's daughter. Into danger, into the unknown, and into a destiny he could never imagine. Escape through the underbelly. Dust still hung in the air as Jero. Princess Lysara and her two guards moved away from the fallen ceiling plate. The ground shook slightly with every blast from the other side. The mercenaries were trying to break through, and it was only a matter of time before they succeeded. Move toward the service exit, one guard shouted. It leads into the lower tunnels. Jero had worked in those tunnels for years. They were dark, abandoned, full of broken machines, leaking pipes, and leftover wiring from the early days of Vesper Station. Most citizens never went down there. Too dangerous, too unstable. But right now, no place was more dangerous than staying here. Jero grabbed the princess's mobility chair from the side and pushed with all the strength he had. The chair was heavier than it looked. Built with armor plating, medical systems, and hover stabilizers, it was no simple seat. Still, he pushed without slowing. Lysara looked at him. Thank you. You move faster than my guards. Jero tried to smile. Fear gives strength. I have a lot of fear. Blaster fire tore through the remaining wall behind them. A chunk of metal flew past Jero's ear. Faster, the guard yelled. They burst through the diner's side door and entered a long, dim hallway. It smelled of old oil and mold, the scent Jero knew too well. The lights flickered overhead, some blinking in and out like dying fireflies. A loud alarm echoed through the corridor. Princess Lysara asked calmly, They triggered a lockdown? Yes, the second guard answered. They want to trap us, but they don't know who they're dealing with. He pulled out a small console and tapped several commands. A panel slid open on the left wall, revealing a narrow stairway leading down. Jero frowned. The old maintenance chute? I thought it was sealed during the last overhaul. It was, the guard said, by mechanics. He glanced at Jero. Not soldiers. Jero nodded. Fair point. They hurried down the stairs. The princess's hover chair hummed softly as it adjusted to the steep angle. Jero kept one hand on the back to steady her. At the bottom, the air grew colder. Old pipes rattled. Shadows stretched across the walls. The tunnels looked like a maze of half-forgotten engineering work. This is worse than I remembered, Jero murmured. A sudden metal clang echoed through the tunnels. Everyone froze. Jero whispered, That wasn't us. The guards drew their weapons. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Jero nearly jumped back until he recognized the old engineer coat, torn sleeves, and familiar dirty cap. Old Rin. Jero whispered. The elderly man squinted. Jero Hale? Boy, what trouble did you drag into my tunnels? Before Jero could speak, the princess's guard stepped forward. Stand down. Identify yourself. Rin snorted. Identify myself? I've been welding these tunnels since before your fancy empire took over. The guards looked unsure, but Princess Lysara lifted her hand. It's all right, she said gently. He's no threat. Rin leaned on his cane. I heard gunfire upstairs. Thought the roof was falling again. What's happening? Jero took a breath. We're being chased by mercenaries. They want the princess. Rin blinked twice. Then he looked at Lysara. You? The Emperor's daughter? Down here? With him. He pointed a greasy finger at Jero. Are you running away together? Jero turned bright red. No, it's not. This is not. Lysara smiled faintly. He is helping me escape. Nothing more. Rin scratched his beard. Well, I suppose I've seen stranger partnerships in these tunnels. Another loud blast shook the ceiling above them. The princess's guards looked up. No time to talk. We must keep moving. Rin sighed and stepped aside. Then take Tunnel Beta. The others are blocked. His eyes narrowed. And watch out for the power grid. It's unstable. Thank you, Lysara said, giving him a small nod. Rin stared at her for a long moment. Something softened in his old, tired eyes. Your father, he may rule the stars, but you care about the people who live under them. Be safe, girl. She nodded again. I will try. Jero pushed the mobility chair forward, and they hurried deeper into the tunnels. But Tunnel Beta was darker, narrower, and far more dangerous. The ground shook with distant vibrations. Power cables buzzed overhead, some sparking. Jero's heart pounded with every step. How far does this tunnel go? He asked. All the way to the recycling plant. One guard said. From there, we can reach the outer transport ring. Jero frowned. The plant? That place is unstable. Half the machines barely work. We'll manage, the guard replied. As they moved, Lysara watched Jero carefully. You know these tunnels well. Too well, he muttered. I spent years down here fixing broken systems no one cared about. Then you are exactly the person we need. Jero wasn't sure if she meant it as a compliment or fate's cruel joke. Suddenly, a loud metallic growl echoed through the tunnel. Jero froze. The guards aimed their weapons in every direction. That wasn't mercenaries, Jero whispered. The growl came again. Closer. Princess Lysara's voice was calm but serious. What is it? Jero swallowed hard. A maintenance crawler. One of the old ones. The kind used before auto drones replaced them. Is it dangerous? A guard asked. Jero nodded. Very. Their sensors are broken. They attack anything that moves. A moment later, glowing red eyes appeared in the dark. The crawler emerged, a massive machine made of rusted metal, sharp legs, and heavy arms designed to lift pipes. It screeched, its sensors locking onto them. The guards fired, but the blasts bounced off its thick plating. It's reinforced. Jero shouted. You can't stop it with blasters. The crawler charged. Run, the guards yelled. Jero grabbed the princess's chair and sprinted. The tunnels shook with the crawler's steps. Metal claws scraped the walls. Sparks flew. Jero's legs burned, but he pushed harder. Behind them, the crawlers roared. Then a second roar answered it. Jero gasped. There's more than one. They turned a corner, but the tunnel ended in a locked service gate. No. Jero pushed the panel. Nothing. The crawler's footsteps thundered closer. Lysara looked up at him. Jero, can you open it? He met her eyes, then nodded. I'll try. He knelt, pulled open the gate's panel, and began rewiring as fast as his shaking hands allowed. Sparks lit his face. The crawler's shadow grew behind them. Faster, the guard cried. I'm trying. The crawler screeched. Lysara whispered. Jero. The gate clicked. Jero lifted his head. Go. The guards pushed the princess through first. Jero turned to run, but the crawler swung its arm. Jero dove, barely escaping the strike. He tumbled through the gate, and the guard slammed it shut behind him just as metal claws slammed into the bars. The crawler roared in rage. Jero lay on the ground, shaking, chest heaving. Princess Lasara leaned slightly toward him. Jero, are you hurt? No, he panted, but I am really starting to hate tunnels. The guards helped him stand, but before they could breathe, distant footsteps and echoing voices rose from the far corridor. Mercenaries. They had found another way in. Princess Lasara looked at Jero. We must keep moving, she said softly, and whatever lies ahead, we face it together. Jero nodded, fear mixing with something stronger. For the first time in his life, he wasn't running away. He was running towards something. Something big. Something dangerous. Something that could change everything. The recycling plant of Vesper Station was nothing like its name suggested. It wasn't clean. It wasn't organized. And it definitely wasn't safe. It was a maze of giant metal grinders, conveyor belts, pressure tubes, and boiling vats where old station parts were melted down and reused. Jero had worked here once. Only once. After watching a worker lose a hand to a faulty compactor. He had promised himself he would never step inside again. But tonight, he had no choice. Princess Lasara, her chair humming softly, entered the plant with her guards and Jero behind her. The lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows that moved like living things. The heat was thick, making it hard to breathe. One guard scanned the area. This place is too open. We are exposed. Mercenaries will follow us soon, the other guard added. We need to cross the plant and exit through the north duct. Jero frowned. The north duct? It collapsed last year. The guard hesitated. Collapse? How badly? Jero exhaled slowly. Completely. Metal beams crushed it. We sealed it off. Princess Lasara looked at the guard. You were not aware of this? The guard swallowed. The Imperial maps must be outdated. Jero muttered. Everything in the lower levels is outdated. Lasara turned to Jero. Then you lead. Jero blinked. Me? Yes, she said softly. You know this place better than any of us. Jero rubbed the back of his neck. I know it because I tried never to return. But he stepped forward anyway. He led them along the metal path above the grinding pits. Below, giant metal teeth chewed through broken machinery like hungry beasts. Sparks shot into the air. Smoke rose in thin white streams. Lasara's mobility chair hovered carefully behind him. Jero kept glancing back, making sure she was safe. She noticed. You keep looking at me, Jero. Why? He hesitated. Because one wrong step here can kill someone. And you worry I may fall? Anyone could fall, he said quietly. Lasara smiled faintly. But you worry most for me. Jero turned red. I don't want you to get hurt. Then stay close, she said, her voice gentle. They moved on. Suddenly, something clicked loudly above them. Jero's eyes shot upward. Get down. A metal beam swung down like a giant hammer. The guards pushed Lasara aside just in time. The beam smashed into the walkway, breaking a large section and sending it crashing into grinder pit below. Jero grabbed the princess's chair to stop her from sliding toward the gap. Metal screeched. Sparks flew. One guard yelled, They're here! From the shadows above, mercenaries appeared on the upper platforms. The scarred leader himself stepped forward, looking down with a cruel grin. You cannot escape the station, princess, he called out. But don't worry. We'll treat you with care until your father pays. Blasts rained down. Jero pushed the princess behind conveyor belt, taking cover. The guards returned fire, but they were outnumbered. Laser shots burned holes in the metal around them. We're pinned, a guard shouted. Jero peeked out. The mercenaries were spreading out across the catwalks, moving fast. He needed a plan. He scanned the plant, the grinders, the melt vats, the conveyors, the old wiring. An idea formed in his head. A dangerous idea. Jero crawled to Lasara. Princess, I need your permission. For what? To shut down the plant systems. Is that dangerous? Yes, he said honestly. Extremely. But it will slow them down. Lasara took a breath and nodded. Do it. Jero ran to a control panel. The mercenaries fired at him, but he rolled behind a pipe. A blast tore through his sleeve, but he kept moving. He reached emergency override and pulled every lever down at once. The plant reacted instantly. The grinders roared louder, then stopped. The conveyor belts jerked, halted, then reversed direction. The lights flashed red. The melt vats overflowed with glowing metal, pouring into containment trenches. The whole plant trembled like a waking beast. The mercenaries lost their footing as the walkways shook violently. 2 of them slipped, falling screaming into the melt trenches. Jero grabbed the princess's chair and yelled, "This way!" The guards followed, firing at the mercenaries above while running across the unstable platforms. A section of catwalk collapsed behind them. Another tremor shook the plant. Jero led them toward a maintenance elevator. It was old, rusted, and barely functional, but it was their only exit. "Hurry," he called. The princess's guards got her inside first. Jero jumped in last and slammed the gate shut. Shots hit the elevator. The scarred mercenary leaped onto the railing above, eyes full of rage. "You can't run forever, boy." Jero hit the button. The elevator groaned, then began to rise. The mercenary aimed his weapon. Princess Lysara raised her hand. Her bracelet glowed. A small shield shimmered to life, protecting the elevator at the last possible second. The shot hit her shield and scattered into sparks. The mercenary growled as the elevator rose away. "You can't hide, princess. Your station is full of cracks, and I will find every one of them." His voice echoed as they ascended into the upper levels. Jero breathed heavily. His hands were shaking again. Lysara looked at him with calm eyes. "You saved us again," she said. "I almost got us crushed," he muttered. "No," she said softly. "You got us out." Jero didn't know how to answer that. The elevator reached the upper maintenance corridor, dark, narrow, quiet. The guard stepped out first, scanning for danger. Jero pushed Lysara's chair forward carefully. The corridor stretched long ahead of them, leading deeper into unknown territory. Lysara looked at him. "Jero, where does this path lead?" Jero hesitated. "To the oldest part of the station," he said. "A place no one goes anymore." Lysara nodded. "Then that is where we will go." Jero swallowed, because he knew exactly what she meant. They were heading into forgotten core Vesper Station, a place filled with broken machines, abandoned systems, and secrets. Secrets no one was ever meant to find. The maintenance corridor narrowed as they moved deeper into the silent guts of Vesper Station. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts, and old cables hung from the ceiling like vines in a dead forest. The station's hum, the constant vibration everyone got used to, was weaker here, almost fading. Jero led the way with slow steps. Princess Lysara's hover chair glided behind him, the guards close on both sides. Every small sound echoed loudly, making the entire place feel alive or watching. Lysara looked around, her eyes calm but curious. This part of the station, why was it abandoned? Jero hesitated. "Because people said it was haunted." One guard snorted. "Machines don't haunt places." Jero shook his head. "Not ghosts. Memories. Mistakes. Accidents." He pointed at the twisted metal ahead. "This is where Vesper Station started. The first builders lived here, worked here, fought here. When the newer levels were built, the old ones were sealed. And forgotten," Lysara whispered. "Yes," Jero said quietly. "Forgotten?" They reached a large rusted door with old warning signs. Black paint peeled off around the edges. A guard tried to open it, but it didn't budge. Jero stepped forward. "Let me?" He pulled the side panel open. Wires dangled like broken nerves. He twisted 2 together, tapped a loose terminal, and sparks flickered weakly. The door groaned. Metal scraped against metal. Then it slowly slid open. Beyond it lay a large circular chamber with a high ceiling. Broken machinery lined the walls. Thick pipes crossed the room like ribs of a giant beast. A faint blue glow came from a cracked power core in the center, still barely alive. Lysara's eyes widened. "What is this place?" Jero answered softly, almost reverently. "The heart of the old station. Before the Empire rebuilt everything. The guard stepped inside first, weapons raised. Jero pushed the princess in. He tried to hide the uneasy feeling in his stomach, but Lysara noticed. "Jero," she said, "you are worried." He nodded. "Because no one has been here for years. Systems break down. Lights fail. Cores overheat. If something goes wrong, we might not get out." Lysara looked at him gently. "Then we will move carefully, and you will guide us." Jero exhaled. "All right." They crossed the room slowly. But halfway through, the weak lights flickered, then went dark. Total darkness swallowed them. One guard clicked on a small flashlight. The narrow beam cut through the dark like a sword. Suddenly, a loud clank echoed from above. The guard spun his light upward. Nothing. Another clank. Closer. Jero whispered, "Something's in here." A soft whirring sound started. Slow. Mechanical. Old. Then multiple red dots appeared in the darkness. "Drones," Jero said in a trembling voice. "Old security drones." The guards raised their weapons, but Jero grabbed their arms. "No. If you fire, the whole room might collapse." Lysara urged softly, "Then we must find another way." Jero thought quickly. These drones operate on old ID systems. They'll attack anyone without early station clearance. "Which none of us have," a guard said. Jero's mind raced. He looked around the control consoles lining the chamber. Most were broken, but one, just one, flickered faintly. "There," he pointed. "I might be able to reboot the system. If I can access the core memory, I can trick the drones into thinking we're maintenance workers." "How long do you need?" Lysara asked. "Not long, if the panel doesn't fry me." The drones dropped lower from the ceiling. Their red optics glowed brighter. Their claw-like arms extended. Jero didn't wait. He ran to the flickering panel, sliding to his knees. His hands flew across the dusty switches and rusted keys. The system was ancient, older than anything he'd ever worked on, but machines had one thing in common. They want to be understood, and Jero understood them. The drones whirred louder, closing in. The guards formed a shield around the princess, ready to fight even if it killed them. "Jero," Lysara called. "Hurry." "I'm trying," he shouted, pulling two wires apart as sparks erupted. The drones swooped lower. Jero slammed his hand onto a final switch. The chamber lights flickered on. All drones froze. Their red eyes dimmed, then turned blue. A calm robotic voice echoed through the chamber. Maintenance mode activated. Jero fell back, gasping. It worked. The drones lifted away, returning to their dormant positions high in the ceiling. The guards lowered their weapons. Princess Lysara looked at Jero, relief filling her face. "You saved us again." Jero wiped his forehead. "I think the station likes me." "No," Lysara said gently. "You understand it." Jero looked away, embarrassed. But then, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor behind them. The guards turned instantly. Jero froze. Lysara's eyes hardened. A shadow appeared in the doorway. Then another. Then 6 more. The mercenaries had found them. The scarred leader stepped forward, smirking. "You keep running, Princess, but every crack you hide in, I will find." The guards aimed their weapons. Jero stood protectively near the princess. Lysara's voice remained calm. "We will not go with you." The leader smiled coldly. "You don't have a choice." Jero whispered, "Princess, the core is unstable. If it overloads, we can use it to block the way." Lysara looked at him. "But that could collapse the entire chamber." "Yes," Jero said. "So we need a new path fast." The scarred mercenary raised his weapon. Lysara whispered, "Jero, let us." And so he did. Jero grabbed her chair and sprinted toward the far side of the chamber, toward a metal hatch half buried in dust. The mercenaries opened fire. The guards returned fire. Sparks rained down. Jero reached the hatch, pulled hard, and it opened with a shriek. A deep shaft yawned below. "Go!" Jero shouted. The guards helped lower the princess down the ladder. Above them, the scarred leader advanced. Jero climbed down last. Then he slammed the hatch shut just as a blast hit it. The metal dented, but held. For now. Jero looked down the dark shaft. It seemed endless. Lysara looked up at him, her voice echoing softly. Where does this lead? Jero swallowed. To the deepest part of the station, he said. Lysara nodded calmly. Then that is where we go. And down they climbed, into the darkness, into secrets no one living had ever seen, and into a fate that would bind their lives together forever. The ladder rattled under their weight as they descended into the darkness. The shaft seemed endless, swallowing every sound except the echo of boots against metal rungs. The air grew colder, denser, carrying the faint smell of rust and old oil. Jero kept glancing upward. The hatch above bulged inward with every strike from the mercenaries. They didn't have much time. Princess Lysara descended calmly, her hoverchair folded and strapped to her back by the guards. Even in the dimness, her violet eyes held unwavering resolve. Jero, she called softly down to him, how much farther? Not sure, he answered. These shafts weren't on any modern map. The guard below him muttered, meaning we're heading into unknown territory. Exactly, Jero whispered. Finally, after what felt like ages, the ladder ended at a small grated platform. Jero dropped down, helping Lysara and the guards off the ladder one by one. A tunnel stretched before them, tall, arched, and lined with thick pipes humming faintly with power. Strange markings covered the walls, carved into the metal itself. Lysara reached out and brushed her fingers lightly across them. This language. Jero crouched beside her, examining the engravings. It's not Imperial. Doesn't even look like Station Builder script. One of the guards looked uneasy. So, who built this? Something older, Jero murmured. Or someone who wanted to leave messages only a few could understand. A distant metallic thud reverberated down the shaft from above. The mercenaries had broken through. We move, Lysara commanded. They hurried through the tunnel, boots clanging against old plating. The faint vibrations under their feet grew stronger the deeper they went, like the heartbeat of something sleeping. The passage opened into a vast underground chamber. Jero stopped in awe. Massive cylindrical machines stretched upward like pillars of a forgotten cathedral. Blue energy pulsed through transparent conduits, forming a glowing network that illuminated the darkness. Dust floated to the light in slow, graceful spirals. In the center, atop a platform, stood a huge spherical structure, half buried in cables and pipes, yet unmistakably active. A soft hum filled the air. Lysara's voice echoed. What is this place? Jero stepped forward slowly. I think it's a containment unit. But for what? I have no idea. A control console flickered nearby, ancient but functional. Jero placed his hand on it. It lit up instantly, responding to his touch far too quickly, almost eagerly. Lysara approached. It recognizes you. Jero frowned. That makes no sense. The screen shifted, displaying a symbol, a circle within a circle, surrounded by branching lines. Jero froze. I've seen this before. Lysara looked at him. Where? In old tech journals, and on a piece of metal my mother kept. His voice softened. This is the mark of the founders. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Lysara breathed out slowly. The original creators of the first orbital stations. Before the Empire. Jero nodded. Before anyone. A thunderous crash echoed from the tunnel behind them. The mercenaries were close. Jero turned to the princess urgently. We need to wake whatever system this is. If it built the original station, it might have defenses. But we don't know what it contains, a guard warned. Lysara looked at Jero. Can you activate it? Jero hesitated only for a second. Yes. He moved to the console. His fingers hovered above controls. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Soft, ancient, and somehow familiar. Access detected. Identity confirmed. Jero stepped back, startled. Whoa, hold on. Identity confirmed? Whose identity? The sphere began to glow from within, lines of light snaking across its surface like veins awakening. Lysara touched Jero's arm. What does it mean? The voice responded as if hearing her. Welcome, descendant of Engineer Class Prime. Welcome back. Jero's heart stopped. What did it call me? The ground trembled as the sphere unlocked layer after layer, mechanical petals opening outward to reveal an inner core of shimmering crystalline light. The guards raised their weapons, instincts on high alert. Lysara's voice softened. Jero, are you all right? He shook his head, eyes wide. I don't know what's happening. The chamber lights brightened fully now, illuminating murals on the walls. Murals depicting humans working alongside tower machines, building space habitats far above long-dead worlds. The founders, the original engineers. Jero swallowed hard. I think my family was connected to them. Before Lysara could respond, heavy footsteps echoed into the chamber. The mercenaries arrived at the entrance, weapons raised, flashlights cutting through the blue glow. The scarred leader stepped forward, eyes widening as he took in sight. Well, he said with a twisted grin, looks like we found something valuable after all. Jero stepped protectively in front of Lysara. The sphere pulsed brightly. The ancient voice spoke again, louder, resonant, vibrating through their bones. Station threat detected. Initiating protocol shield wall. A shock wave burst outward. The mercenaries were thrown back into the tunnel as a shimmering barrier of light sealed the chamber entrance completely. Silence returned. Jero stared at the glowing core. Lysara placed a hand on his shoulder. You did this. No, Jero whispered. This place, it was waiting for someone like me. Lysara's gaze softened. Then perhaps fate brought you here. The sphere dimmed slightly, then projected a holographic pathway of light, leading deeper into the facility. The ancient voice spoke once more. Core memory access required. Please proceed. Jero breathed in shakily. Lysara looked at him, trust evident in her eyes. Lead us, Jero. And with a steadying breath, he stepped toward the path of light, not knowing that what lay ahead would change not just the station, but his entire destiny. The glowing pathway stretched across the chamber floor like a trail of living light, pulsing gently as if guiding them forward. Jero stood at its edge, his heart thundering in his chest. The others waited behind him, tense but trusting. He took the first step. The path brightened beneath his foot, acknowledging him. Lysara followed close behind, her guards keeping a careful formation around them as the shimmering barrier behind sealed their enemies out. For now, the path led them through a narrow metal corridor that opened into another chamber, smaller, circular, and filled with floating crystalline shards. They turned slowly in the air, rotating around a central pillar of pale blue light. Lysara's voice was soft. It's beautiful. Jero approached the pillar. The shards hummed as he drew near, responding to him just as the earlier console had. He reached out his hand, hesitating only for a breath. The light wrapped gently around his fingertips. The ancient voice returned, quieter here, but somehow more intimate. Memory core engaged. Descendant verification complete. The shard snapped into place, forming a spiral around Jero. Images flickered across their surfaces. Cities floating above storms, colossal machines forging star metal, humans standing beside luminous constructs that towered like giants. Jero whispered, Founders' memories. Lysara stepped forward. What do they want to show you? The light tightened, pulling Jero deeper into the center of the chamber. He didn't resist. Something inside him, something old, something instinctive, urged him onward. The voice shifted, not mechanical, not cold, almost human. The engineers of Prime left a legacy. A key. You are its holder. Jero pressed a hand to his chest. A key? Me? The images changed again. A woman with the same dark hair as Jero, same sharp eyes. She stood in a workshop lit by orange plasma lamps, wearing old-style mechanic gear. Jero's breath hitched. That's my mother. One of the guards stepped closer, surprised. She was a founder? The voice answered. She was the last surviving carrier. She hid her identity to protect the line. Jero stepped back, shaken. She never told me. She never said anything. She feared the Empire would use you. Lissara lowered her head with regret. Some rulers might have, but my father... She looked up, eyes full of sincerity. He would have protected you. Jero appreciated the words, but his mind raced ahead. What do the founders want? Why bring me here? The core brightened. The station is dying. Sabotage detected. Only a descendant of Prime can repair the heart. Jero froze. Lissara stepped forward urgently. If the heart fails, the entire station will collapse. Millions will die. Jero nodded slowly. Then tell me what I need to do. The voice responded instantly. The heart lies behind the last seal. Your DNA can open it. The chamber floor shifted beneath their feet. A circular hatch unfolded like petals, revealing a staircase spiraling down into warm golden light. The princess looked at Jero. We go together. He nodded. Together. The heart of the station. The staircase led them into a massive spherical room. At its center floated an engine unlike anything Jero had ever imagined, a glowing orb suspended between magnetic rings, humming with enough power to tear the station apart or hold it together for centuries. But the rings were cracked. Energy leaked from the fractures like strands of lightning. Lissara's face tightened. This is worse than the intel suggested. Jero stepped toward the orb. I can fix it. The guard stared at him. How? This isn't normal tech. Jero crouched beside the broken ring, placing his palms gently on the cracked surface. The ancient voice spoke again, reverberating through the chamber. Guidance activated. Blueprint projected into the air around him. Complex designs, engineering equations, magnetic flow charts. Jero understood them instantly, as if he'd known them all his life. Lissara watched in awe. You're connected to this place. Jero didn't answer. His hands were already moving, with the Founder's knowledge guiding him. He rerouted magnetic stabilizers, reconnected fiber conduits, and rebalanced the core's failing harmonics. It felt natural, easy, as if he had done this 1,000 times before. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Finally, he rewired the last conduit and stepped back. Power it, he said. Lissara nodded to her guards. They activated the breaker switches. The orb pulsed. Once, twice, then exploded in a brilliant surge of light, not destructive but rejuvenating. The cracked rings repaired themselves, metal sealing as if melting back into perfect shape. The entire station hummed with new energy. Jero exhaled in relief. It's stable again. Lissara smiled, a soft, warm smile that made Jero's heartbeat stutter. You saved everyone. Before Jero could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the upper levels. The mercenaries. They'd blown through the barrier. A voice shouted from far above, echoing down the chamber shafts. Princess, mechanic, don't think you can hide forever. Jero clenched his fists. They're coming. The ancient voice chimed calmly. The heart is stable. Defense systems available. A descendant must authorize. Jero blinked. Defense systems? A panel rose from the floor, glowing softly under his hand. Lissara looked at him steadily. Do it. Protect the people. Jero placed his palm on the panel. The chamber lights flared. Authorization accepted. A low rumble shook the walls. Across the entire station, dormant systems awakened. Drones igniting, doors sealing, protective shields rising. The mercenaries never stood a chance. Their shouts faded under the roar of descending defense bots. Lissara looked at Jero with deep admiration. You become more than a mechanic. Jero swallowed. I never wanted this. She gave him a gentle smile. Great destinies rarely ask for permission. The engine's light bathed them in gold. Jero met her gaze. Princess, what happens now? Lissara held his hand, warm and steady. Now, she said softly, we rebuild the station and your place in it. Jero didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. Sitting at the wrong table had changed everything, and fate was only just beginning.